This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman and Riley Smith. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Well, good day, everybody, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today is Friday, July the 15th, 2022. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in today's show, we'll be hearing from the folks at Corteva as they held their media day yesterday. We're going to talk about soybean oil that can be used for cooking or for industrial use. We'll also have a check of your ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down those markets. Time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. Well, we're at the end of the trading day for Friday, and we turn to Robin Schmall of agmarket.net. Robin, what did we see coming out of this Friday?
Well, really, this Friday was kind of the market seemed to be taking a breather, so I guess it allowed some of the traders to unbuckle their seatbelts after the volatility we've seen. The biggest news probably today was the Foreign Ag Service, FAS, made a retraction of the sale of 133,000 metric tons of corn that they had announced that they had sold to China. Well, you don't see that very often. And in fact, I don't even know if I've ever seen it, but that was probably probably one of the biggest news. However, it didn't really impact the market that much. I guess when you look at things in the big scheme, corn actually was closed a little bit higher today. The weather outlook models, they differ as far as where the heat is going to be, how long the heat's going to be, or whether be some periods of cooling off in between. So that was just really kind of something that the traders just kind of were uncertain of and digested into the market. Next 2 weeks will be critical for pollination when we're running through the main part of the Midwest. So we're going to have to digest that over the week, and traders will be watching the weather models fairly closely. Now, Indonesia palm oil stocks rose to a record 7.23 million tons in May. That's because they shut off their exports for that period of time. Now they're looking at resuming some of those exports. They had that little bit of a panic mode there for a period of time, and they shut those off. Same thing happened in the wheat market, not from Indonesia, but where there was some closing of some of those for a period of time. Now, spot basis bids for corn and soybeans yesterday dropped for barge rates to the Gulf because of slower demand that we're seeing right now, whether that's somewhat tied to the economic situation or whatever. But so some of the spot basis, some of the cash prices have dropped back as well. Now, in the soybean complex, soybean meal today really took the brunt of the selling. I mean, that was down $10 to $12 a ton. But even with that, it did not have a large pull on soybean price. Soybeans kind of coasted into the close, but we did have a sharp rally in soybean oil, and yet kind of goes hand in hand because we're crushing more to get oil. Because oil is stronger, we're going to see some pressure on soybean meal. So was really a spread trade basically today between meal and oil. Wheat market was under some pressure. Not a lot of news in there that we could really hang our hat on.
So going over to the livestock side of things, those cattle and hog markets, Robin, what do we see there to finish out the week?
Well, live cattle kind of coasted or slid into the close today. They were down a little bit. We digested the cash of the week, which Southern trade was about steady with a week, and Northern dress trade was down $2. So we saw 137 in the south and 230 in the north as far as trade is concerned. So they digested that. Looking at what was anticipated earlier in the week with steady to higher cash didn't materialize because packers had some of that already ready purchased ahead of time for this week, so they didn't have to be quite as aggressive. But the live cattle still carry a discount to cash. Now that could support the market if we see continued steady cash or the potential of some higher cash. Now box beef at midday was up 82 cents, but for choice, but select was down. Now poor export sales did weigh on that livestock market because weekly export sales released yesterday. I mean, they were the lowest for the marketing year. And that is not a good sign as far as that's concerned. Now, July in the hog market, July went off the board today. So August took over as front month. August was the only contract that was a little bit higher to close the day. They carry a $5 discount to where the July went off the board. I don't know if the market's really going to be too anxious of making that up anytime soon. However, the great thing that we saw this week was we saw all 5 days, if indeed we follow the pattern of cutouts at noon today, which were up a whopping $4.50, we see that close, which I'm sure we probably will see stronger cutouts. We'll have seen hog or pork cutouts up every day this week. So we have 5 consecutive days of higher cutouts, and that's what we really need to see some support under this market. So I think the hogs are poised to maybe break out to the upside of the trading range that they've been in.
All right, Robin. Well, a lot of great information as always. If folks want to talk market strategies with agmarket.net, what's the best way to get in touch?
You can call me at 877-256-3253 for directly talking with me, or go to agmarket.net. Our number is on there where you can call in and get a hold of somebody.
All right, Robin. Well, we thank you so much for the insight and look forward to talking to you again next week.
All right. It's always a pleasure being on the show. Thank you.
That again was Robin Schmall of agmarket.net. Let's run down those market numbers, courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. At the close, September corn down 3/4 at 604 1/4. December up 2 3/4 at 603 3/4. August beans down 5 3/4 at 1466 even. November new crop up 1 1/4 at 1342 1/4. Soy meal down $8.20 at 404.20. Soy oil up $2.33 at 59.12. Chicago wheat was down 19.5 at 794 even. Minneapolis down 2 1/4. That's at 919 3/4. Kansas wheat down 11.5 at 845 1/4. Oats up 3/4 of a point at 443 3/4. October live cattle were down 37 cents at 139.55. August feeders down $2.55 at 176.35. Lean hogs down 2 cents on their last day on the board at 114.90. Pork cutouts up 50 cents at 117.50. Class 3 milk down 9 cents at 22.53. And that's been your Ag Market Recap. When we come back after this short break from the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff, we'll talk with the folks from Corteva. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AMPM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Well, we had a chance to go out to Johnston yesterday for Corteva's Media Day, in which they talk about some of the things they've got coming down the pipeline for 2023 and talk about some of the things that they have seen and the results they've gotten from some of the stuff that was launched in 2022. Well, we're going to have that material coming up in subsequent episodes of AMPM, but today we're going to talk soybean oil with Roger Theisen as we talk about a product that is not only edible, higher flash point, and also good for industrial uses. Talking right now with Roger Theisen of Corteva, and of course we're talking Plenish soybeans today. And we talked a lot last year, Roger, about Plenish soybeans. And where have we come in the last year since we talked last?
Yeah, so last year we were really seeing a high demand off of the food and industrial applications, and we're really looking forward to increasing those acres from 2021 to 2022. And at this time a year ago, we still hadn't had programs yet, so we didn't know what delivery locations or what processor premiums were going to be. And after our discussion a year ago, those locations became our footprint expanded. The premiums got quite attractive to growers, and we increased the acres year over year by over 50% from 2021. So we're there. We're growing the marketplace. We're still not to the level we need to be yet to fulfill downstream demand, but that downstream demand number still seems to be very fluid because of some of the global oil market dynamics that are going on right now. That I'm not sure if we could ever meet the full demand, but we certainly are trying to do that.
Now, I know when we talked last year, for example, Iowa did not have any places to take it to. They had to go to Minnesota if they wanted to offload those beans. Are there places in Iowa now, or at least some on the way?
Yep, so we haven't announced yet for 2023, but what we will have in Iowa in 2023, for the most part, will be AGP is going to have some location in Manning, Iowa. Still, that northern Iowa tier of counties would have to go up to CHS in southern Minnesota. And then there will be some, at least one or two river locations on the Mississippi River that growers. So we're still kind of on the outskirts of Iowa. We haven't, hit in the middle of the state yet, but we're working on that. Processors are trying to find those locations that make sense for them as well as customers.
You talked about the incentives looking very attractive. I mean, what did we see coming into this year that would really, and did we see a good shift, for instance, in Iowa?
Yeah, so, Cargill was the new entrant last year, or this planting year, the 2022 crop year. So they were the new entrant in the state. I think their premiums were like around 85 cents for harvest delivery and $1 for buyer's call. And then you still had CHS up in northern Iowa. That was roughly the same thing on harvest delivery, but a much more attractive buyer's call and upwards of $1.30 a bushel. So again, those premiums haven't been set yet for the 2023 crop year, but the messaging I'm hearing from processors is that downstream demand is there, it's demanding it, and we could see premiums going up again for 2023.
Now, last year we talked a lot about its use in the cooking and in the food service, but you talked about industrial uses as well. What kind of things is that being used for?
Yeah, so think of why it's of value in the cooking applications, right? So that high flash point, it's good in those high heat environments. So same thing in industrial applications. So if you think about, if your oil being used in a lathe or other applications, and the other piece is they're grabbing different oil compositions out of that oil. It isn't just using the high oleic oil. They're breaking that down into the different pieces and have different industrial use applications. You could see Plenish oil being used in things like makeup in the future. So those are kind of taking some of those maybe animal fat type usages or even synthetic oils out and using a renewable, sustainable oil product like Plenish, vegetable oil in those applications.
So what are you seeing now for growth in the demand for food usage? I mean, we talked last year. We would love to see it on grocery store shelves. We'd love to, see more and more restaurants using it. I mean, where's it gone last year?
Yeah, so it's still targeted. The big acres are going to anybody that would be those large fryers. So think of a snack chip company that would be using hundreds of millions of pounds to make potato chips and cookies and things like that. So that's where you're going to get the most acres. We are starting to see some of the distributors picking it up and using it at restaurant locations. They're getting that increased fry life in their fryers. A little less cleaning needed by their labor. Labor shortages are a big topic, and so if you don't have to clean that fry equipment as often as you have in the past, your oil lasts longer, less food waste, really speaks to what they're trying to do in whether it be a restaurant or like a quick service restaurant,
So obviously when we talk about growing markets for things, obviously the sky's the limit for ideas. What kind of things are you thinking about? What kind of things can you share that is kind of going to be in the pipeline for uses that you're trying to work out for this?
Well, yeah, so we're constantly talking to anybody that wants to have discussions about it. We have a group of individuals that work with researchers at different food companies or industrial companies to see what new applications could be used for the oil. The other thing that we haven't really touched on yet is export use. So we're getting countries asking for this oil, either in the beans or in the oil. So that's the market that's really an untapped market yet that really could show some great promise for us. And we haven't met the domestic demand, but boy, the future growth really looks promising in some of the export markets.
When you look at those exports, I mean, how much of a leg up can that give us as a country too for exporting more crop, like compared to some of our competitors?
Absolutely. Since I've been involved with this, to me, this gives the U.S. soybean grower another opportunity to capture more soybean use acres in the marketplace. So this is a differentiated product that, yes, there's other high oleic products and other vegetable crops around the world, but this gives the U.S. soybean grower a market for an oil product, their soybeans, that they haven't had in the past. And so that's going to speak great volume for them and potential for added premiums on their bushels.
Another thing I know we've talked about in the past, but is obviously after you get the oil out of the beans, you have the meal left over. That's become such a great product for, you said, the cattle and the dairy production.
Yeah. So now, if you're using the meal out of a chemically extracted process, that meal is meal, right? There's no oil left in the meal. If you had an extruder, there's a little bit of oil left in that meal, and there could be a value there yet for a dairy operation to increase milk fat content, but. Really, as far as a chemical extracted meal or oil process, that would still be just like commodity soybean meal, which there's still a very great market for it yet, right?
Another question I guess I would have to wrap up here today. Obviously, we're talking about situations around the globe where food shortages are an issue. How can this help alleviate the situation, or what's the situation that this can help contribute to what we're looking at?
Yeah, so think about it. If you think of all the vegetable products that are being used to make oil, right? So if you can expand that fry life, or you can expand the shelf life of a packaged good product, this speaks volumes to what we want to try and do. You get by with less oil now because you're changing that oil out of your fryers. Your food products, or you have less waste because it's on that shelf longer. So it really helps with food waste, sustainability, some of these shortages that we're looking at right now as a globe. This oil could really fit in well with it.
One follow-up to what you just said. You talked about obviously the longer use, a longer shelf life. I mean, how does it compare to your canolas, your vegetables, your olive oils, whatever you have out there? Yeah,
so I don't have all that data here right at hand, but there's in some countries they measure the oil differently than what we do in the U.S. when it's in fryers. But you can sometimes, depending on the amount of fry time or the amount of food that you're putting in those fryers, you could be expanding. Again, the amount of food, it could be days, it could be up to a week, right? That you could have extended fry life. That's all dependent on a lot of other factors. The amount of food that you're running through that oil. Yeah.
All right, Roger. Is there anything else our Iowa producers need to know about these beans?
No, just they're made with our A series soybeans. There are elite genetics. Take a look at it. It's a really great opportunity to earn additional revenue per acre. And yes, we don't have all of the locations that we'd like to have in Iowa right now, but we're working on that, and hopefully we can take advantage of the ones that we currently have on the outskirts of the state. So,
all right, Roger, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
And that again was Roger Theisen of Corteva here on Ag Matters PM. Let's run down that weather. We had quite a bit of thunder and lightning here in the early morning hours in Des Moines, but that rain shower activity pushed its way out, and we saw blue skies and warm and humid temperatures return back to central Iowa. Now, we're going to see a little bit of a chance for some rain tomorrow and some cloudy skies. We'll take a look at what that forecast holds from the National Weather Service. Well, as we said, we had a few overnight thunderstorms here in Des Moines, but the sun has made its way through once again, and it is a little stickier out today. We saw highs in the low 80s in the east to the upper 90s here in the west. Now tonight, look for variable cloudy skies. Showers will start to diminish in the east, and we'll see lows in the upper 60s to the low 70s. And tomorrow will be mostly cloudy with a few breaks of sun in the southeast, but we'll see a chance of thunderstorms across most of the state and a high of 83 to 86 degrees. Looking at the affiliate weather map, you can see Cherokee and Des Moines both looking to be mostly cloudy, chance of storms in 85. Shenandoah, chance of storms and mostly cloudy skies in 86. Waterloo will be 83 with cloudy skies and a chance of storms. Clinton the same, cloudy and a chance of storms, but they'll have a high of 84. Albia looks the only place that may see the sun for a little bit tomorrow, but they still have a chance of thunderstorms and a high of 85 degrees. For a more detailed forecast in your area, tune to your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliates. And that's been your Ag Weather Outlook. And that puts the wraps on today's show. We thank you for watching. You can tune into all of our content at iowaagnet.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and on YouTube, where we have back episodes of the Ag Matters PM show. You can like them, also hit the bell icon so that way you get notified anytime we upload a new video. We also have free twice daily market podcasts available through Google, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Avery Haskell and Riley Smith, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.